Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before we start our agenda, we call our keynote speaker, Prof. Tariq, to have a seat from us. And Prof. Heru, Dr. Darwanis. Maju. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in wa ala umuri dunya waddin wa salatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First of all, I want to say gratitude towards Allah who has given us opportunity and healthy so we can make this. Next, greet and salutation to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who had brought us from the darkness to the lightness, from Jahiliyah era to Islamic era. My honorable to our Dean and Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Business Shah Kuala University, my honorable to our keynote speaker, Associate Professor Tariq Rana from School of Accounting, Information System and Supply Chain of RMIT University, Australia, my honorable to Prof. President of Accounting Department, Faculty of Economics and Business Shah Kuala University, my honorable to our lecturers, students, audience from who attending today. Before we begin, I would like to call upon Mr. Walid to read some verse of Quran and lead us prayer. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون صدق الله العظيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا شاكرين حمدا نعمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده يا ربنا لك الحمد ولك الشكر كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين وعافية في الجسد وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت اللهم هون علينا في سكرات الموت والنجاة من النار وعند الحساب ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا منك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا جميع الناس يوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد ربنا إننا سمعنا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Now, I would like to call upon our head of accounting department, Faculty Economics and Business, Shahwala University, to Professor Dr. Heru Falevi. Please welcome. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Honorable Associate Professor Tariq Rana, Honorable Dean, and all the participants in this room, and also we have more than 55 participants join virtually. It's a great honor to having you here, Prof. Tariq Rana. I call you Tariq, yeah. So Tariq, we first met. I know him when I submitted my paper
he is the editor, but looks now here. Yeah, so it's quite amazing. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So let me continue my speak in bahasa Tarik. Ya, Bapak dan Ibu, baik yang ada di ruangan dan juga di Zoom. Saya lihat di Zoom ada teman-teman dari FDAP dan juga teman-teman para pakar dan juga peneliti, student akuntansi dimanapun berada. Terima kasih sudah bergabung. Kami di Banda Aceh sangat senang bisa mengetahui Bapak dan Ibu juga tertarik untuk mengikuti acara ini. Bapak dan Ibu yang berbahagia, dosen-dosen senior, ada Pak Dr. Islaudin, Dr. Narisha, Dr. Fazil Syam, Dr. Iha, Prof. Firna, dan Bapak dan Ibu yang tidak bisa sebutkan namanya satu persatu. Hari ini saya sangat berbahagia dengan dukungan dari panitia yang sangat luar biasa, dari dosen muda kita yang dipimpin oleh Intan, Nanda, dan
Emang saya kalau nggak ada di Zoom saya nggak ada background pengaturan rapat pilih background nggak ada. Coba.
Oke. Jadi acara kita ini adalah acara pertama dari program World Class University. Ini adalah sebuah acara yang didanai oleh LPDP melalui program Equity, dan Syekh Kuala University mendapatkan hibah untuk menjalankan program ini dengan tujuan untuk meningkatkan ranking Universitas Syekh Kuala di level internasional. Dan alhamdulillah salah satu penerima hibahnya adalah saya, dan saya mengajak Tarik untuk bisa bergabung kemari, dan alhamdulillah beliau setuju, dan akan ada beberapa agenda lainnya Ibu Rekan hari ini, besok, dan lusa. Dan dengan tujuan adalah untuk memperkuat silaturahim dan juga networking antara Universitas Syekh Kuala dan RMIT University di Melbourne. Dan juga kita berharap acara ini juga memotivasi Bapak dan Ibu untuk melakukan riset lebih mendalam dan lebih terkini terkait dengan akuntansi. Dan juga yang tidak kalah penting adalah pesan dari Ketua WCU Syekh Kuala, yaitu Prof. Muhsin Umar. Sebisa mungkin acara ini memotivasi dan menjadi jembatan bagi dosen-dosen muda yang kita harapkan untuk segera bisa melanjutkan studi S3 khususnya di luar negeri, lebih khusus lagi mungkin di Australia. Dan kebetulan sekarang ini di Banda Aceh di Syekh Kuala sedang menuju libur ya. Jadi saya rasa ini adalah waktu yang sangat tepat untuk kita sama-sama Bapak dan Ibu untuk berdiskusi, bertukar pikiran dengan Tarik terkait dengan agenda riset apa yang sebaiknya kita lakukan, yang kira-kira itu ditunggu-tunggu oleh para editor dari jurnal-jurnal internasional. Sedikit informasi, Tarik ini adalah salah satu penulis hebat ya, researcher hebat di internasional. Dia sudah mempublish banyak riset di jurnal-jurnal terbaik di bidang akuntansi, dan bahkan sudah menjadi editor di beberapa jurnal kenamaan di akuntansi. Mudah-mudahan dengan mengucapkan bismillah, dengan harapan acara ini bisa produktif, kita semua bisa mendapatkan manfaat. Demikian yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the speech of Professor Dr. Heru Khalifi. Without any further ado, I would like to call upon our Dean Deputy of the Faculty Economics and Business Syekh Kuala University, Dr. Darwanis. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, puji syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala, serta salawat dan salam kepada Nabi besar kita, Nabi Muhammad SAW. My honorable participant in this room and virtual too, my honorable Professor Dr. Heru Khalifi, Head of Accounting Department, and my honorable Prof. Tarik Rana from Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, University Australia. Thank you for your coming here. Ini adalah program seperti kata Pak Heru tadi, adalah program WCU yang hibah diberikan oleh LPDP melalui Universitas Syekh Kuala, yang menurut saya ini adalah program yang paling baik ya, program yang sangat baik untuk dibuat terutama di Universitas Syekh Kuala. Ini terima kasih banyak kepada peserta yang hadir di virtual yang lumayan banyak ini ya, ada sekitar 58 ya, 58 peserta dari seluruh Indonesia ini pasti ya. Pada hari ini kita bagian dari 3 kegiatan tadi yang sudah disebutkan oleh Pak Ketua Jurusan tadi atau Ketua Departemen, yaitu hari ini we have a guest lecture in topic contemporary issue in accounting practice and research. Tomorrow workshop topic conducting high quality research from research proposal to publication in top tier business journal, and after the tomorrow workshop recent innovation in teaching and learning of accounting. Mungkin pada hari ini lebih banyak ke bagaimana sebenarnya riset yang sedang berlaku di bidang akuntansi ya, sehingga kita nanti para dosen maupun mahasiswa yang hadir itu bisa berdiskusi bagaimana yang terbaik yang sedang kita pelajari dan juga yang berlaku ataupun yang up to date hari ini. Saya harap kita semua bisa berdiskusi dengan Prof. Tariq ya. Jadi have nice good discussion Prof. Tariq Rana. Ini agak sedikit ini ya, Prof. Tariq Rana. Mungkin ini sangat bermanfaat, bukan mungkin ya, sangat bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Saya tidak akan memperpanjang pengantarnya atau mukadimahnya karena kita membutuhkan waktu yang efektif dan lebih baik untuk berdiskusi tentang contemporary issue in accounting practice and research yang sedang berlaku sekarang. Baik, saya tutup, saya akhiri. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
With that, we have completed our formal session. Thank you to our Deputy Dean. Welcome everyone to this seminar. Hereby, I, Muhammad Ihsan Adnan, be the MC for today's seminar, and Ms. Intan Farhana, MCOM, will be the moderator to lead this discussion to today's seminar. Before I hand over the seminar to Ms. Intan Farhana, let me introduce her a little bit. Ms. Intan Farhana is a new lecturer here at the Accounting Department, Faculty of Economic and Business, Syekh Kuala University. She completed her master's at Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, and currently she is also a PhD candidate at the Graduate School of Business, University Science Malaysia. Ms. Intan's research interest is around the governmental budgeting and accountability, reflected by the topics she explored during her master's studies, her PhD research, as well as her publications. She has published papers in several international journals, including the latest one, Government Budgetary Response to the COVID-19 Crisis, Insight and Future Direction for Crisis Budgeting Research, published in International Journal of Personal Economics. So she will moderate today's session. And without further ado, I hand over the session to Ms. Intan Farhana, MCOM. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning and welcome to today's guest lecture. I'm Intan and I'll be the moderator for today's session. First, I would like to start off by expressing my heartfelt thanks to all of you who are participating in today's event, both who have attended here in this room and also to the those of you who have attended the event through virtual room, Zoom. Well, we got 60 already in virtual room. Thank you very much. And then to Associate Prof. Tariq Rana for coming all the way through from Australia. Prof, welcome to Banda Aceh. Hopefully you'll enjoy Banda Aceh for this week, because you're attending not just for one session, also 3 sessions this week. And hopefully it's not too hot for you. Okay, and also to Professor Dr. Heru Pahlavi, our head of accounting department, for initiating and also organizing this week's sessions. Okay, all of you, today's lecture topic revolves around contemporary issues in accounting, research, and practices. This is obviously so relevant to all of us who are the line of work is in the academics, because we're not just teaching here, but also doing research and also social services that should have impacts both in academics and also practices. So getting to know the contemporary issues would definitely inspire us what to do in our next project, inshallah. So before we start, let me explain the timeline of our session. It'll start with the presentation by Prof. Tariq for around an hour, okay? And then we'll go on to the Q&A session after that. So to those of you who are in this room who would like to ask later on, you can ask directly. And to those of you who attend virtually, you can either submit your questions to the chat box, or you just click the raise hand feature for later on to be allowed to ask directly. All right, so before we begin and we go on into our main session, which is the presentation of Prof. Tariq, let me introduce him a little bit to you, yeah? Prof. Tariq Rana is from School of Accounting, Information Systems and Supply Chain, RMIT University, Australia. And I have to tell all of you here that reading Prof. Tariq's CV was really amusing and inspiring because I wanted to do my PhD in RMIT back then, but what to do? The fate is in USM. So before jumping in as a full-time lecturer at RMIT, he was working as professional accountant and consultant in several big companies such as KPMG Australia and partner Aussie Tax and Business Consulting. Then at RMIT, he has served several positions as well, such as research committee member, research director, and currently SHDR director of School of Accounting, RMIT. So those of you who would like to undertake your PhD at RMIT definitely will have to go through assessment. Yeah. And he's also the member of editorial board in several well-known journals like Public Money and Management, also Journal of Accounting and Organizational Change. His research interests are in the area of management accounting, management control systems, public sector accounting, and social and environmental accountability. Of course, he has published in so many leading academic journals, just to name a few, like AAAJ, British Accounting Review, Mediterranean Accountancy Research, Financial Accountability and Management, and also others. So yeah, I'm very much excited, Prof. And I'm sure all the participants in this room and also in the virtual room are also excited. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Prof. Tariq Rana. Over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. So you can
okay. And the slides will be
control by.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Honorable Head of the Department, Dr. Heru Fadli, and Moderator Intern MC Ishfan, and distinguished faculties and students, those who are in this room and those who are
joining through Zoom in a virtual room. A very warm welcome and good morning. I really appreciate your presence this morning, and I hope these discussions for next 45 minutes and 1 hour is just some ideas for your thoughts, right? So I know everyone in this room is distinguished scholars and academic. So I only can give some ideas about my personal thoughts, and I hope this will also help me to connect with yours. And my intention is to learn as much as I can from this conversation. So hopefully after my small talk, we'll have more time to discuss, and feel free to tell me what's your thoughts and ideas about the issues that I'm going to raise today. So please take it as a conversation rather than a lecture or one-way communication, because in accounting, I think more and more we see it's suffering from one-directional communication, right? So somebody do some accounting somewhere, and then they send it to via financial reports or audit reports or some communication, and then they don't want to hear what other people who are reading those accounting has to say something about it, right? So they shut the door as soon as they issue those reports. So there is no kind of mechanism for us to hear from stakeholders for whom those reports been prepared, right? So we do certain things, right, for certain people, but forget about that, right? And then comes the big questions. So today, I know I was asked to give some ideas about contemporary issues in accounting, research and practice. Research and practice actually same thing, right? It's the two sides of a coin. But of course, there are far more divide between research and practice nowadays, right? So those who do research, they communicate with their own groups, right? Own groups of academics. They go to conferences, they go to seminars, they talk to same-minded people, right? And on the other hand, we have people who put those accounting practices or business practices in actions in real life situations, right? So I am really glad to given this topic, because research should be reflective of practice, right? And at the same time, practice should be getting new knowledge from research. So I hope through what we are talking today, will be eliminate some of the gaps that we have between research and practice. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, today I like to show you some bigger picture, right? So accounting is not for someone who goes to office every day, 9 to 5, put his or her head down, do some number crunching, right? And at the end of the month, do some reconciliation. At the end of the year, do financial report, right? So I like you to take you out from this particular scenario and take a bigger journey, right? So if science people can do research about stars and global issues and space, why don't we accounting people try to imagine that big picture? And the way we can imagine big picture is through looking at what is around us, right? What is around individuals, right, within organizations, what other people's doing and thinking within the same organization, and then going beyond our organizational boundaries and look at who is affected by or impacted by our organizational activities, right? So if I ask you these questions, then probably the answer will vary, right? And it will be from a small scale to a bigger scale. For example, what we do within organization, right? It has implication for our colleagues. It has implication for other companies who are dealing with us, our suppliers, our creditors, our debtors, our banks, all other organizations are connected, right? And then as a whole, it gets translated into other organizations and people around us. So we see that how the accounting from within the organization is spreading outside of the organization and integrating with other people's, other groups, other organizations. And then it moves from our societies to national level, international level, global levels, right? So today I'll bring some of the issues that are at the global level and at least at the national level, not just focusing on organizational level and what happens within the boundaries of an organization. So today, these contemporary issues are about grand challenges, right? The big challenges that we are facing, the big challenges that accounting can help, the big challenges where accounting has some roles. So the main purpose of today's conversation is to look into the current trends, right? What is happening at that big picture level? What are the issues? What are the challenges? How we can bridge this gap between academia and practice in order to solve those issues. So I hope I will give some interesting ideas. If not, at least these ideas would be your food for thought. So at first, I'm going to take you to one of the grand issues in this moment, and it's a global issue. It's a issue, we are calling it Sustainable Development Goals, right? So as you know, these goals actually were set by United Nations back in 2015. These goals, I'm going to take you through these goals, right, one by one, so that we can explore some ideas that how our research can inform those goals and how our accounting activities can help organization and society and our countries to achieve those goals. Those goals are not just for naming, right, 17 big ideas, but also how we can achieve them, how we can deal with them, how we can bring them inside our organizations, and how we can give it back to the national and international level. So it allows us to think big. So immediately from within an organization, we are thinking about a global scale. We are thinking about United Nations, right? Nations of this art. So what these challenges, these goals actually gives us some issues and challenges. And these challenges are ranging from societal challenge, including poverty, education, health for everyone, zero hunger, food security, so on and so forth. And in my featured slide, I'm going to come back. But just before we go to the next slide, I just want to show you some of the things that are happening in the accounting literature. So the biggest challenge at this moment that we see in SDG reporting, if you are paying attention to those reporting, you see two types of reports coming up. One, some organizations are saying they are achieving all of them, right? I don't know how they get this data, how they get this evidence, but in their report, they are saying that, all these activities are linked to all these 17 goals. So that's one side of the story. And the other side, some organizations are choosing and picking whatever goals is kind of meaningful for them, or in a negative way, what are more convenient way to claim those achievements, right? So they try to pick and choose that, okay, I'm doing number 3, I'm doing number 5, I'm doing number 9. But again, we as an accountant need to question those things. That, okay, show me the data, show me the evidence, show me the proof, how you are doing this, how you are claiming, right, what you are claiming. So that's from the outside of the organization. But within the organization, as an accountant, we are the best friend of our top management. We are the best friend of our stakeholders, because as an accountant, we can develop new processes and practices, right, through accounting information that can help others to organize their activities so that they can show proof to others that, okay, this is how we are achieving this particular goal, right? So that's what our responsibility. So it goes both ways. We do by ourselves, we show others how to do it, and then we can challenge others. If someone's saying that, okay, I met this goal, or I'm meeting this goal, or I'm champion of this goal, then we can ask them the right question that will trigger them to think differently, right? So we cannot accept what people are saying, taken for granted. We need to use our accounting thoughts and practices in order to hold people accountable. So there's two things, right? So one, how we can integrate these different organizational activities for achieving SDGs, and how we can draw lines among different SDGs. So there's two tasks of integration. One, organizing our organizational activities, and then linking all these 17 different goals, because they are not that much separate. When we go through the list, you will see that there are some inherent relationship and connections. And the second one I highlighted is the role accountants play in terms of developing measurements, frameworks, mechanisms as to how we can provide a reliable sustainability data, which makes our claim valid, right? So we not only help organizations to achieve our own goals, right? We also help other people, particularly our stakeholders, to make sense of what we are saying, right? So that's another part of the stories. So let's move on to the next slide. So here, I don't need to name all of them. As you can see, there are 17 symbols on the left-hand side, and then 17 names on the other side, right? And as I highlighted in my previous slides, we have a range of activities within these SDGs, right? That means we can cover pretty much everything that happens within the organization, and then we can link them with everything that we do in our society, in our community, in our country, like globally. So it's a very nice way to use it as a framework, right? So it gives us a framework to solve the grand challenges, and at the same time, it gives us framework to develop accounting, right? When we say accounting, we don't necessarily mean reporting, right? We mean all the other activities that comes before the reporting. Reporting is one of the quite later stages of accounting task. Accounting actually starts from the ideas. When big bosses or someone within the organization says, hey, I got a good idea. And then boss asks him to explain or her to explain. She does explain, and then if bosses like, they try to take it to the board meeting, or they go to the strategy setting meeting, they talk about these ideas, debate about these ideas, and then they set some organizational goal if they like those ideas, right? So accountants actually starts everything within the organization, and accountants actually finishes everything within the organizations, and everything else happens in between. So I have two boys, one is 19, one is 12. When my elder boy was around 5-6 years, he used to tell me, what you do, Dad? And I said, I teach accounting. Previously, I used to do accounting. And he says, what is accounting? How it helps, right? And what purposes people use accounting? So because he was a kid, I did not give him accounting definition, but I told him that accounting actually runs the world, right? Accounting actually runs the country. Accounting runs the organization. And your mom used accounting to run our family, right? So everywhere you look at, probably you will not see it immediately, but when you think carefully, you see we are governed by numbers. Every day we are thinking about how I'm going to organize my activities based on how much money I have in my pocket. What type of lunch I'm going to choose, it comes from how much money I have. What gift I'm going to give to my wife, girlfriend, partner, again, goes back to how much money I can afford, how much money I can borrow. How much property investment I can do actually goes back to the idea how much I can borrow from the bank, how much I can borrow from my father-in-law, how can I, borrow from my family and friends, right? So whole ideas about this world actually has something to do with accounting. So some of you already are expert researchers, some are emerging researchers. Sometimes you might see people are doing accounting just focusing on share prices or stock prices or revenues or expenses, right? Sometimes you might think that's the whole world of accounting, but I'm here to kind of reiterate the other version where we see accounting is behind everything, right? Accounting is behind our national budget, our organizational budgets, so on and so forth. So going back to my point that we can connect each and every organizational activity with each and every sustainability goals that is up there on the screen. So at first, in this slide, I'm going to give you a little bit of ideas about what these goals are. And in the following slide, I'll tell you how accounting can inform or implicate or affect those achievement of these goals, right? So that's our if we can achieve that, I think that would be a good outcome of today's talk. At least if we can dissect these goals, what it means, and then how accounting can play a role, right? That would be a lifetime research for not only one individual academic, but probably for thousands of academics around the world. They can spend next 20, 15 years just doing this type of research, focusing accounting and SDGs. So I'm just bringing this big picture at the beginning of my talk so that everything else which comes after becomes part of this, right? We will come to some specific topics and areas which are more popular or getting more popular in accounting and finance areas. But if we use these SDGs as a kind of framework or as a framework, as a lens to looking at certain things, then the other things will fall into their places, and we'll see more sense coming out from those type of research that we do. Excuse me. So again, there are 17 goals, and I'm going to give you some ideas about some, not probably all of them. Probably our time will not allow for all of them. So let's start with the number one goal. It is no poverty, right? SDG number one. So we cannot miss the number one. So what it tells us? It tells us that we need to end poverty, right? Or we have to do something with poverty. Who can deny that poverty is not one of the biggest challenges of humanity, right? It was there at since the beginning of this humanity, and probably it would be the end thing when our humanity ends, right? So this is most pivotal and interesting ideas, right? So how could, as an accountant or business researcher, we do our research, right? And we think that we are making new knowledge, we think that we are making impact, but don't think about poverty, right? How many of us doing research, right? And thinking, okay, how my research can reduce poverty? We are not probably that bold when people say, okay, eradicate poverty. There should not be any poverty. Of course, that's our goal and we like to be there, right? That's why we put it there, number one goal, no poverty. Because poverty is the cause of most of the evils in this world, right? And because of most of the evils, we see more poverty, right? So there is a connection. So as a researcher, we need to think that why we always interested in the stock price? Why always interested in asset price? Why always interested in borrowings and repayments and interest and dividends, right? Why don't we go and look at the biggest challenges? I think if we can solve some of these biggest challenges, right? This is not actually one person's job or one academic job or one university's job. it's a job for whole humanity, right? Everywhere, every corner of this world, we have to do this. And some NGOs globally made some names of doing some part of it, right? One organization cannot change the whole world, but at least they can change something, and that change can lead to the other change. So I'm actually from Bangladesh. I'm born and raised in Bangladesh. I was in Bangladesh until 2000, and then I left in 2001. Since then, I'm in abroad. But I'm sure some of you have heard of Grameen Bank. Some of you might have even heard the second NGO in Bangladesh, BRAC, right? So they are one of the global leaders in terms of reducing poverty. I don't give credit to everything that they do, but at least they had the vision. When United Nations was not thinking about poverty, when academics were not thinking about poverty, somebody in Bangladesh in a rural village came up with this idea that everything he does, his organization does, is ending poverty. So I'm not assessing whether they are good or evil. They have done good, they have done bad, and every action has, positive and negative consequences as per Newton, right? So we're not going into that. But just for a second, think about this idea that one person came up with this idea that I will reduce poverty as much as I can. So that should be probably, this type of goal should be implicated in our research. That why don't we come up with research questions that actually help others to understand that, okay, if we do A in reducing poverty, we'll have B, or we'll have C, or we'll have D. And when we combine all these knowledges, we'll have something meaningful that actually helps reducing poverty. So what is all about? It is about that every individuals, every society, particularly the most vulnerable among us, right? In every society, we have most vulnerable, even in the richest country in this world, to the poorest country in the world, right? So we need to shape our research ideas based on that, okay, how I can help most vulnerable people with my research. Can we think about a topic that actually brings this type of people or ideas into my research? How can I reduce inequality, right? How can I reduce imbalances in resources, right? Some people are very lucky, they get access to most of the resources in this world, right? So they have banker friends, they have insurance friends, they have political friends, right? But we are thinking about those who don't have those friends, right? So how can our research help us to understand how we can allocate resources, how we can use resources, how we can help people to get basic access to the resources, right? How we can ensure that their ownership is theirs. Nobody is kind of take it from them. No one can control their resources. They can do their controls, right? So accounting also helps us to implement controls, right? Verification, assurance, all sorts of things. So it can be anything that you like. You don't have to limit your research ideas just for interviewing vulnerable people. You can also think about, okay, how I can come up with a new technology that will make people a bit more efficient and effective in terms of reducing their own poverty. How can we emancipate people? How we can give them more confidence? How we can bring equality, like in our society through gender imbalance, so and so forth. So the other things I just like to highlight from here is the education, right? I'm sure you have seen every discipline has education-focused research, and accounting is not exception. Although we do little than what we need to do. For example, we have some accounting journals, right? Accounting education, accounting education research, so and so forth. So through this education research, right, we can probably help us as an academic and our administrator who runs the university and our government who allocate budgets for education, right? So we can probably do some research and show them that, look, if you do this, this will happen. And we can tell them how they can be more inclusive, right? How they can, the budget, government budgets and private sector budgets can think about people who are left from outside of the system, how we can bring equality, not only from gender imbalance, how can we bring quality education in a way that education becomes their biggest resource, right? I'm sure some of us in this room, right, we are here because of education, just education. If you take me as an example, I'm the first person in my family who went to university, right? My dad could not afford university. My mom could not finish her school, right? But because of that vision they had, right? They actually sent me to school, they sent me to universities. And after that, right, it's a kind of dream come true. For example, I was born in a small city in Bangladesh, right? And after that, can everyone mute your audios? Yeah, so just finishing on that note. Can I make a request? Since you are in this room, you don't need the Zoom. Can you shut down all of your computers, please? Because we don't need to see each other through Zoom or listen to each other from Zoom. If you're in this room, please shut down your access to the Zoom. Thank you. So education has changed my life. Education has changed my family's life. So please think about that as an accounting or business researcher, we have nothing to do with education. I think we have everything to do education, right? Because we come across to accounting through education. We explain accounting by educating people about, different activities, right? And we explain different things to different people through budgeting, through performance evaluation, through auditing, through resource allocation. Everything is all about education. And one aspect of education is for life, right? And then our life is for education. That, okay, how I can become a lifelong learner, not just during my time in the university. How can I learn every day? How can I learn from this meeting today? How can I learn from my next meeting with head of the department? Or how can I learn from my next meeting with the vice dean? So every opportunity we have, I think we need to make it a learning opportunity. And then we actually make sure that kids from vulnerable society, families, areas, they get the most privileged access to learning. And if we can ensure that, I think we can solve half of the list from the screen. And another thing is gender equality. In accounting, we have very few research in gender equality, probably in overall in business. I can speak for business as well. So we cannot achieve any of these goals until we ensure that there is no discrimination among genders, right? So we need to make sure that we give full opportunity to everyone, not just male, not just our best friends, not like, we need to make sure that everyone has that. So I will probably move on to the next slide, but I thought I give you an example of how we can change our research ideas, how we can make these big goals as a framework for our research, right? And how we can use it to think about issues. So most of the questions we deal as a supervisor is when new student comes to us and say, hi, Prof, how can I help you with, how I can start my research? Or can you give me an idea? How can I start, right? So how can I start? I said, look, if you just open your eyes, right? If you listen to what other people are saying, if you reading what is in the business newspaper, if you're at night when you're watching news, right? You can see there are thousands of research ideas. And that ideas actually close to the practice, right? Because you are hearing from real people who are doing the real stuff. So our job is to connect our accounting and business ideas with these things people are talking every day, right? We need to connect with everyday activities in our society. Only then our accounting research and business research will be effective, meaningful. Otherwise, why other people will read my paper? Why other people will think that this guy has done something interesting? If, as a professor, I tell you to do something and you do it, it's just between two people, right? You are making me happy, I'm giving you a PhD, you are happy, your family probably also happy, that's it. But if we pick up issues from our everyday life, right? What we see, on the way to work, what we see in our offices, what we see in our local businesses. So yesterday, Prof. Hiru was kindly giving me a bit of sightseeing in the town, and we got a few research ideas just looking at what is happening in Banda Aceh, right? So in terms of aftermath of tsunami effect, aftermath of COVID crisis, aftermath of like the war in Ukraine and Gaza, how businesses are getting affected. Some businesses are prospering, some are declining, right? Some society are taking some stand against certain businesses. So who said these issues are not related to business? Who said these are not related to accounting research, right? These are the best research ideas that anyone can give it to you. So if someone comes to you and say, hey, Prof, give me an idea, just ask them to go around and look around for a day. And I'm sure they can come back to you and you can ask them what you have seen, and there will be lots of creative juices will flow from that conversation. So my humble suggestion is use this to generate research ideas, not just going into the literature and finding the gap, right? So literally one student come to me and say, Professor, where is the gap? I say, look, there is no gap in the literature, not in a physical sense. Everything is in your head, right? You can create any gap you like as long as you can think right, right? You give me one idea, I can give you 10 gaps. It's just how you think, how you see the world, right? So this is what you need to tell to your students when you give them projects or research papers or assignments. Whatever we do as an academic, I think we have a responsibility to increase this creativity in our students, right? So most of the time, students will ask for the solution. As a teacher in my class, I never do solution-based assignment. I say, look, whatever you do, I'm interested in the process, how you are doing it. Doesn't matter whether you come up with an apple or orange or banana at the end, I don't care. Because I don't want you to look at the end product. Because students always looking for shortcuts, they will always say how it look like at the end. Why you are interested in that? If you enjoy what you are doing, if you do good, what you are doing, result would be there, or you can change the result, right? If you don't like the result, you can come up with a better idea that will give you a better result. So don't focus on the result. When we look at the result, that means we are we don't have confidence. We like some assurance. We want to follow other people who prepare the solution, right? So why we take other people better than me, right? Why I can't improve the process? Why I can't improve the design? Why I can't improve the approach, the way I can approach the problem? I can bring a new approach, right? So this can be a topic for our research as well. So when we see some organizational processes within our organization, right? We need to challenge the processes. We need to think how I can improve, and then our innovation will come, right? Because everybody talks about innovation, but when you comes with a new idea, your bosses will say, "Oh, no, we don't have money for this. We don't have time for this. We don't do these things like that," right? So that means there is a resistance to new ideas and innovation, and that's when we need research to show the proof, so that rather than talking, we can show our bosses that okay, this is the result, and bosses one day will probably be convinced that okay, what we are saying, it makes sense. So now, in the following slide, we can probably tell you a bit more about, you have not noticed the change, but slide actually has changed. But now I'm going to tell you a little bit that how accounting can go back to poverty, right? How accounting can go back to the quality education, how accounting can go back to the gender equality, right? So I want you to imagine, right? Don't limit by what I'm saying. Just think in your head for a second that if someone says, okay, do a research on accounting and no poverty, what sort of things I can think about that can be an interesting research project or that would be seen by others as useful and meaningful, right? So it could be plenty. I'm not giving you any specific ideas or exclusive ideas. I'm just giving you a thought, but your thought is better than my thought, right? So you just think and think and think, and then you find what you like most. So what accountants can do for ending poverty or no poverty? Accountants can design within their organization certain financial decision-making processes, right? They can develop how people can measure poverty, right? So there are lots of indicators of poverty. But I think we also need to come up with new indicators for poverty. So one research would be, okay, let's see what's the current literature and knowledge says about indicators of poverty or how we can measure poverty. Then as a new research student or PhD student, you can tell them that go and think about how you can develop new metrics or new indicators, right? And how you can become this measurement more inclusive than what it is currently, right? So currently there are some indicators, but probably these are not working. If they were working, we'd not be talking about ending poverty. We are making it our number one priority because whatever we know about poverty and how to reduce poverty is not working. So this is probably the biggest opportunity for our research, because if we know something is not working, then you can fix it. If you know something is messy, you can go and clean it. So my supervisor used to say, when I used to give him new ideas at the beginning of my PhD, he said, no, your ideas are very nice and clean. I need some messy ideas. I need the dirty laundry. I need the untidy kitchen. Because when I see, then I can show how to clean them, how to make them tidy. If you're already showing me that it's tidy, why we need 3 years, 4 years of time to do some research? Bring something broken, bring something messy, bring something ugly, bring something that is not working, right? So most of the accounting friends are doing research with, relationship through regression analysis, through statistics, right? So they will say, oh, this variable nobody has looked at. Why you need to look at this variable? There must be millions of reasons why other people have not looked at, and there are probably millions of reasons. If you looked at, there would be no change, right? So we need to starting from the point that we need to make some change. We need to fix the broken things. We need to clean the untidy things. We need to organize the messy stuff, right? So the quicker we can bring this messy stuff is good for our research. So accountants can not only develop measuring the poverty, they can also track poverty, right? They can tell us what the current situation is, what is affecting working, what is not working. And we can bring this information to the whole world so that our government cannot hide, our organization cannot hide, like in the big power in this world, they cannot hide, United Nations cannot hide. right? We know that they're hiding, they're lying, they're tricking us all the time. So why don't accountants think about how these things can be transparent? How we can hold them accountable by my report. I'll do something, I'll show something, I'll publish my report, right? So that we can tell that they are lying, right? So we not only develop systems and mechanisms to measure probity and then track them in a real time, but so to show them, right, to other people that look, who is talking lies and who is talking truth. So otherwise, we cannot solve this type of big problem. So we need accurate accounting. We need good accounting system, reporting systems. We need accounting information. We need to bring them to the people. We need to make that process transparent. We need to make people accountable to that process. So there are lots of ideas already. So one of these tiny ideas can become a big paper project or a PhD project, right? Just one tiny bit. So I'm talking big because it's a big issue, but there are promise of many research in these ideas. So we talked about educations, right? So what accountant can do in terms of quality education, right? So apart from doing research on our accounting curriculum or our assignments or our pedagogy practices, there are a few things that we can do to make impact in our society, right? Which will actually improve the overall quality in our society. So what can we do? We can make sure that in an organization, right, where accountants work, they do a better financial planning with accounting, right? They can do a better budget within accounting. We can do reporting in the education sector. If you're interested in government accounting or public sector accounting, this is also a good idea to make our government accountable, just looking at how they're spending their education money, where the money coming from, how much is budgeted for what, how they are allocating, how much is effectiveness. You can measure all these things with your research, right? So if we do this, we are actually helping to achieve that bigger goal, right? Quality education. If we see that mismanagement, if we see that, nepotism, if we see that misallocation, if we see that they are hiding something somewhere, right? We can bring them to the light, right? So lots of things that accounting researcher and business researcher can do that will actually bring quality in our education sector, right? So, so we need to accountants are very good because they see the input and they see the output, right? In terms of money and in terms of actual activities. So who else can see the clear picture than accountants, right? Accountants can tell you how where the money come from, how it came from, in what purposes it was used, and what's the effect of these uses, right? If you see any issues in any of those, please make a topic of your research. You can hold your education department accountable. You can hold your government accountable. You can hold your universities accountable. In Australia, if you follow the recent press, you will see a lot of issues happening in our university education sector. We call it higher ed sector. Lots of mismanagement, lots of issues. It's not just about universities, vice chancellors, or deans. Our government also making some miscalculation in terms of education policy, right? So we, as a researcher, we can see how they are actually developing policies and what's the implication of these policies in our tertiary education or higher education. We can see that during COVID, our universities are vulnerable, right? They're not as smart as the university should be. So nobody ever thought about crisis like that. Nobody ever thought about managing risk. Nobody ever thought about, what we'll do when times are bad. So these are the topics of research in the education sector as well. Because remember, if there is a crisis, who suffers most? Yeah, vulnerable people, people with less education, people those who have, suffered in COVID. Many kids cannot go to the school. Many could not complete universities. Many kids never experience the university life. I tell my sons that best of my life time I spend in universities. And this is where I met their mom, right? She was my classmate. So it's not only a good place for knowledge, but it's also a good place for families, right? So they missed out on that opportunity. During COVID, they could not go to uni, they could not make friends, they could not enjoy. So it actually affected quality education, right? So even we, in our research, we can bring what was lost and how we can prevent this for future crises like that. Again, going back to the gender equality, how can accountants help, right? If we look at your organization, probably I'm not talking about your organization per se, but asking you to think about your organization, right? You'll see some places males are getting promoted faster than women. Some places men are getting more salary than women. Some are getting more resources, bigger offices, better conference funding, right? We see it happening before our eyes, right? So don't think that I'm talking about RMIT University or your university. I'm talking in general. It's happening before our eyes. So why don't we become more curious and see the practices, right, through our research? Okay, let's look at it. It's probably anecdotal. It's probably just me. So let's do this in a bigger sample, right? Look at 10 universities, 15 universities, look at international universities and see whether we can see these disparities, right? So this is just an example in our workplace, but gender equality is everywhere in our society, right? So still some of my friends living in Australia with PhDs making budget for kids' education. They want their son to be doctor or engineer, and daughters, they're still thinking, oh, they'll get married, they'll have kids, and why we need to spend that much money. Like in 21st century, in a country like Australia, both mom and dad are professors, right? They are saying this. So we need to change people's mind as well in terms of gender equality, and think how accounting being used in this decision. They were thinking about return on investment. They're thinking daughter will marry and there is no return, right? Those highly educated people, university professors, are using accounting to create discrimination and gender equality. And trust me, it is happening everywhere. So if you are interested to know more, start a project, right? Look at how this is happening in our organizations and in our societies, right? So I can go on to talk about all these 17s, but I'm not. And I said that I'm creating the scene at the beginning with a bit more detail. So my next slides, I'll move a bit much faster. If you have any question, please take a note. And during the Q&A or information session, we are more than happy to discuss them. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this one is actually coming from SDGs as well, but this is a standalone issues, right? So that's why I separated this from SDGs, although our SDGs connect with this idea of climate change, right? So I tell you, I have done research on climate change, and I'm very much interested doing more research on climate change. So I'm going to tell you about my projects, but accounting research can play a lot of role in terms of identifying climate change, in terms of identifying climate change risk, in terms of identifying how we can measure climate change, right? And it can take different forms and shapes. You can measure carbon emission. You can measure different type of disclosures, Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. If you look at the requirement for Scope 3, it's very complex, right? It goes back and forth in your supply chain, inward and forward linkages. You need lots of expertise. We don't know much about that. So if you want to kind of stick with one research idea, I tell you, this is one of those ideas. If you are interested in climate and accounting, you can do it for next 30 years, 40 years, probably rest of your career. We know very little. In Australia, we are having Australian sustainability accounting standards. So now they are focusing on climate-related disclosures. So now it is becoming mandatory. As you know, most of the sustainability stuffs are voluntary, right? If you do good, if you don't do, still good. But now standard setters, they're bringing standards. Previously, we have seen TCFD, right? That international framework for disclosing climate-related information. But now it is taking more structured shape. If you are interested in financial reporting, financial accounting type of research, I say please pay some attention to these new developments, because that will keep you busy for many, many years to come. Because we don't know nothing, even not only scope 3, we don't know how to disclose scope 1. We don't know how to disclose scope 2. And 3 probably will take another 10 years for us to understand how can we disclose carbon impact of our own organization, our suppliers, our creditors, our debtors, our suppliers of our suppliers, so lots of opportunities for conducting research in these areas. So we need lots of reporting tools. We need lots of measuring tools. We need lots of management control tools, right? We need measuring the impact as well. So we are doing all these things: accounting, reporting, financial disclosure. But what impact it is making, right? We need to show evidence that what we are doing in our organization, spending money in counting carbon, we are disclosing to others, we are reporting to others. But what for? So how it is impacting us. So please think about impact measurement. This is something we don't know much. Not only climate, right? Any impact, right? If we can come up with some good model, good measurement, that what we are doing as an organization is, we can capture the impact in our society or in our community. If we can do that, I think we don't have Nobel Prize in accounting, but if someone can do it, probably that would be equivalent to that. Because nowadays, everyone, government, international community, organizations are interested in knowing impact, but nobody knows how to measure impact. And accountants are the best friend, business academics are the best colleagues who can think about how to measure impact. So even if you're just interested in measuring impact, please think about your next research project related to that. Second thing I want to say here, most of the time, these type of things only intrigue us to think about, okay, how we can count and how we can report. That's it. Right? So you say in your organization, you have different division, different departments. You say department heads, so give me some report, what is happening. Give me some report, what is happening. And somebody will combine them and report it, right? But within the organization, we have lots of opportunity to integrate them. What accounting Department A is doing, what the relationship they have with Department B or Department C. Are we creating the same wheel over and over again? Are we in silos? Are we not knowing that if I know what they're doing, I can save $1,000 years because, they already know what they're doing, right? So integration is one of my key themes for my research, because I always say accounting is lacks integration, right? If you have multiple systems within the organizations, they don't talk to each other. You have a Excel spreadsheet, don't talk to your Word document. If you have Word document, it don't talk to your enterprise resource planning systems or the big management accounting systems that we have, right? So accountants are good in terms of managing systems and creating systems, but we are not good in terms of how to integrate them, how we can see the holistic picture, how we can develop a dashboard, how can we develop a balanced scorecard so that all these informations are connected together and no one is left alone. Only then the true value of our hard-earned measurement, reporting, counting will all go back to the strategy level. Right? When the big decisions are made, these guys will see actually the real accounting, right? Otherwise, they will just see report coming from different departments. That's it. Somebody has to connect them, somebody has to integrate them, and only then we see the big picture values. So with the climate change, we can do all these things. We can design framework, we can develop new processes and systems, we can develop reporting system, we can develop assurance system, we can develop transparency system, we can develop how we can make people accountable, right? Let's go to the next slide. So here, integration is mentioned, which I tell you already. So this is just an example that integration is required, right? And then accountant has a role to play. So we need to understand this critical role that accountants are playing in our organizations and beyond our organizations in order to not only comply with the government regulation, not only report, but also create efficiency and effectiveness in our resources and in our resource allocations. And one thing I want to say here before moving to the next one, just imagine for a second, if we have this integrated information system in our organization, actually we are becoming more efficient and we are becoming more able to manage risk, right? Because why risk comes in? Because of lack of information, lack of visibility, lack of not knowing, right? So unknown is the biggest risk factor. So if we can integrate all these systems and policies and procedures, then it helps us to manage the organizational risk as well. So I'm going to the next slide. So next slide, I'm not going to say too much about this because I see this is the other side of the coin of SDGs, but this is another popular term. Some people are more interested in ESGs than SDGs, right? But for me, ESG is the bigger framework, and within SDGs, and within SDGs, ESG is a kind of sub themes, right? But when I was in US, I see they are more interested in ESGs than SDGs because SDGs are a bit more human and this one is a bit more corporate. Although we have environment, we have governance, we have sustainability, but Americans are very good in terms of finding, how to make money from everything. So they are developing lots of ESG tools, reporting tools, ESG score. They are selling these scores to the organizations. They are selling this score to the users. But as a researcher, we need to look at some of the ESG critically, right? So we need to look at. Can we go to the next slide? So we need to look at what's the impact of ESGs in our performance. So this is one of the example that people look at, relationship between two things, and they try to understand what happens if we do more ESG, whether our organizational performance goes up. Although studies are giving some evidence, it's not complete. It is an ongoing project, right? But what is they're saying that if we focus on this relationship between ESG and organizational performance, there are some evidence that other organizational activities are becoming better, right? See the flow-on effect. So if we focus on these two, there would be some interest in other organizational processes and they will be more improved because of that. But as a researcher, we need to challenge some of these taken for granted ideas. If we know how ESGs are measured, you will see this measurement is not flawless. This has some inherent problem with the measurement, right? So there are lots of companies who do research and come up with an ESG score. So they score different organizations differently. They give 80 to one organization, 70 to another organization, 90 to another organizations. So as an accountant, we can first research question would be, let's see how they score an ESG for organization. And then next question, is it fair? Is it like, based, is there any weakness in the model? Is there anything that we can do to improve the measurement of ESG score? Because if you go in Google and try to find ESG score of top companies, you will see some tobacco companies, right? Tobacco is one of the biggest enemies all over the world, right? You see those tobacco companies are getting 90, 80 score out of 100. How is possible? If you're talking about environment, if you're talking about sustainability, but somehow these scorers who scored this to make money, they develop a system that favors these big companies, right? But we need to develop a score that favors the reality, that favors the society, that favors our people who are, getting damaged by these tobaccos, right? So there are a lot of scope for us to kind of do research in these areas. So I give some examples in the following slide. So probably we can move on quickly. Next couple of slides, yeah. So one suggestion made here is that, can we move to the next one? Yeah, so we can see that there are some practical aspects that accounting can touch us on, right? So they can tell us how to measure ESGs, right? If we know how to measure it properly, then we can challenge those scorers who give certain companies 80, certain companies 90, certain companies 70. If we know how to measure by ourselves, we can probably challenge them whether they're doing the right thing. And then within our organization, we can develop systems and processes to account for our ESGs and report it properly. And then we can develop certain control mechanism that will help us, our organizations, to achieve their ESG goals, right? Next slide, please. How we are going with time?
We still have
10, 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, can we move to the next one, please? So now another big topic that kind of caught my eyes, and I started doing research in 4 or 5 years ago. I published one book called Big Data Analytics in Accounting and Auditing, and there were 23 chapters. The chapters were written by different academics all over the world. It tells us that it is becoming an emerging issue, right? It's not only a big word. Everywhere we go, there is a big data, there is technology, but this is actually before us, and we need to do some research in this area from accounting and business perspective, right? So some of the things I mentioned in the slide, that as an accountant, we're probably always thinking about measuring something and then reporting something, right? But we also have some bigger responsibilities inspired by those SDG type of goals. That is, big data is hindering us. It is, whether it's causing some issues. Is it creating, disparities between some groups of people? Whether, some people are tech savvy, some people are not tech savvy. If we use too much big data, whether it favors some and disfavors some. Whether, big data raises some ethical questions, right? In terms of privacy, how data are collected, how data are used. We all know that our data is being bought and sold every day. Whatever we are doing, right? Somebody's watching us. Somebody is tracking you. Somebody is tracking me every day. When I go to shops, when I go to a restaurant, when I do things for my family, every single things are tracked. And you see, when you come home, there are new advertisements are already in your inbox because of your behavior, what you have done earlier in the morning or afternoon, right? What news you are reading has implication on what you are seeing in your, inbox and your advertisement. Everything changes in a real life. So that tells us that somebody is collecting this big data on us and they are using improperly, not ethically. So we need to think about that, okay, what sort of research we can do that will highlight these unethical practices, right? And how big data actually cause damages, not only benefits. But we cannot ignore what is happening just among us or before us, right? So this technology is transforming us, and sometimes we call it digital transformation, and it is happening everywhere. It started with devices, different kinds of devices in our hand. Now it is coming into our work processes. How do we teach? How do we interact with each other? It has an effect. So as an accountant, not only we adopt ourselves with these new technologies, but we actually measure how the technology is impacting us, how it is impacting accounting, how it is impacting accounting to change human behavior and organizational behaviors, so and so forth. So digital transformation is something I would request you to think about, that what sort of implications are there, good and bad, that comes from digitalization. So I just want to mention one research project that I have done in Australia. This is on one not-for-profit organization. So our government, they came up with an idea that they will create a digital marketplace for disability services. So government gives the money. The disabled person has a limit of budget, let's say $100,000. And then the providers, they come to the digital marketplace, and the receivers can pick and choose what services they can buy with their budget, right? So now this has actually changed practices from both sides. So organizations are actually undercutting and reducing their costs in order to attract buyers in the digital market, right? So if you have a digital disability in the family, you will look for different services, and you look at, okay, who costs me less, and I go to them, not thinking that less is not the quality. On the other side, organizations, those who are offering these disabled services, they are also making their prices too competitive by compromising their quality, because they know people are watching their budget and they are making decisions based on accounting number. So they kind of saying that, okay, I can give you this therapy at that price. I can give you speech therapy at that price. I can give you this, speech, whatever, is required. But they're actually compromising their quality to attract new customers. And it is happening because of the digital marketplace, because everyone is seeing what's the movies, right? So we found that it is bringing some efficiency in terms of decision making, but it also leading to a bad decision, right? So people are becoming too conscious about their budget and cost. So accounting has, negative consequences. Okay, so can we move to the next slides? Probably next few slides I will skip through very quickly in consideration of our time, and also some of the things I already been taught. Can we jump 2-3 slides, please? Yep. Next. Next. Okay. So some ideas, if you are interested in management accounting type of research, that how you can look at technology, particularly artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we know that management accounting is the internal process within the organization, right? That actually help us to design financial system, design budgeting systems, design lot of short-term or long-term activities, right? So if you're interested in technology, and if you are interested in looking at the management accounting side of it, probably you can look at how organizations are doing automatic transaction processing, how we can predict future financial analysis, how we can use technology in order to identify risk and how to mitigate those risks, right? How we can support our top management and board in order to make efficient and effective decisions based on technology, right? Of course, we can use technology in order to reduce fraud in the organization and increase the compliance within the organization. Next slide, please. I'll skip that. Next one. Next one. I also mentioned this already, some of them. Okay. So let's bring the last topic. I'll probably finish with this topic. This topic is very close to me because primarily I'm a public sector researcher and my key interests are sustainability, risk management, and performance measurement. So I talked about sustainability already, talked about measuring some performance within the organization. Now I will finish up with these risk management ideas. So public sector is very interesting if you are paying attention to what government is doing and how we are kind of affected by each and everything that our government does. So I take real interest in government policies. So as a business researcher or accounting researcher, you can always watch those policies and you can do some policy type of research as well. Policy type of research is interesting because sometimes, you know, at the beginning, you don't need to go outside and do survey or do some analytical task. You can just look at the policy and do some document analysis and word analysis, right? Text analysis, and you see what sort of things are trying to achieve through this policy and how this policy is implemented. So in public sector research, you'll see there are lots of research focusing on reforms, right? And when we say reforms, what do we mean? We mean policy changes. What government is trying to do new, what changes they are trying to bring. So recently, there was a big reform in Australia. It actually gave something new, which was not before, right? So they're saying that public sector organizations now need to pay more attention to managing their risk, right? But this change was a bit unconventional because in the government sector, we know most of the time they tell us what to do and we do. They don't always ask our opinion. They don't always give us room for designing something suitable for our organization, right? So they have policy, they have budget, and everybody follows policy and budget. But here, they said, look, we are giving you a reform or policy which is principle-based. This reform is not rule-based. So the difference between rules and principle-based is, rules is you just follow the letter law or you just follow the policy or directives, right? You don't have to think, just go home and implement in your organization. But now they made a big change. They're saying, look, now we want you to think differently, use it as a guide, use it as a principle, and then design it as per your organizational needs and organizational business. So risk being shifted from a regulatory object to a kind of emancipatory object, right? So this government reform actually changed the very idea that risk management is kind of a normative thing, it's kind of directive. Somebody will tell us that, okay, this is your checklist. You tick this box, you know, if you can tick, that means your risk compliance is done. You have done your risk assessment. You can now go and relax. But now this reform is telling us that no, you need to actually customize this in your organization as per the services and goods that you are providing to our public, right? So that's created a new room within the government departments in terms of new thinking. That, okay, how can we develop a framework that is suitable for our organization? Then they said, okay, how can we come up with a risk measurement tools that is suitable for our department? So if you think about government departments, you can see that this is the right thing to do, because the Department of Education will not assess their risk same as the border protection or immigration or health or social services, right? So every department has a different way of servicing. So if they don't design their risk assessment and their frameworks as per their organizational strategies and goals and needs, then this reform would be meaningless, right? So that's why I personally did this research in Australia, and we found that this actually created a lot of positivity within the organizations. People were able to develop new measurement system and management control systems, and they were also able to evaluate their performance against risk management. So it's not all about how to assess your risk and manage your risk, but thinking about what is our performance in terms of mitigating our risk, right? So when you think about performance, everybody becomes alert, right? So when my dean asked me to see her in her office, I immediately think she's thinking about my performance, right? So the performance is kind of on top of everywhere else, right? If I call into dean office or head of the department office, first thing comes mind, probably I have done something bad or my performance is not good. How can I, defend myself? So in an organization, when people evaluating something, measuring performance, that tells you that something is serious about that, right? So it tells you that, we are paying attention. You are on notice. You need to be alert. You need to be accountable. You need to call into your boss's office and show that, you are performing. So risk management has not become an isolated organizational activity. It has been linked with performance measurement. So people are thinking about their own performance. They're thinking about, okay, am I doing good in terms of my risk management activities, right? So it's not about measuring and reporting. It's also thinking about how am I tracking in terms of risk management, right? So I think in terms of time, probably we can probably wrap it up here with this risk management note. But if you have, I'm sure you have a lot of questions, and I'm passing it to the moderator in terms of allocating those questions, and I'll try my best to join the conversation. But again, this is a conversation, right? So please don't ask questions, only tell what you think, give suggestions, give ideas. As I said at the beginning, I'm here to learn as well. So I look forward to this opportunity to learn from all of you. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank again everyone, particularly Professor Hiru, who made this trip possible and who hosted me. And look forward to seeing some of you in my talk tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. It's a very nice presentation. Lots of valuable research ideas that we can develop. I believe here all of us are craving for research ideas, be it for undertaking for research, applying for research grant. So I'll give chance for the floor to ask questions first. Probably here those who are.
Can I say one question?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I actually forgot to highlight this, that all these things that I mentioned is not just for research, but getting money from others' pocket to help your research. So I think thank you so much for bringing this up, because if you notice recently, who are getting funding, whose research is funded, not only in accounting, not only in business, but in science and other areas, you see most of the, at least in my knowledge, most of the are in relation to climate change, sustainability, ecosystems, like, technology, right? So that's my anecdotal evidence. But in Australia, I see the colleagues who are getting research grant locally and internationally, they are actually operating within those space.
Thank you very much. So I'll give a chance for the floor to ask first 3 questions. Yeah, I'll take 2 from here and 1 from virtual room, and then after that we'll go on another Q&A session. So who would like to ask first? Okay.
So can you use this one?
Feel free to ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bang, Pak, sini Bang.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Putra Abdullah. I'm PhD student. I'm also a teacher also in Surya High School. So I'm so very interested with your presentation, and welcome to Mr. Tariq Rana. So based on our discussing today about the one of the issues about the sustainability or sustainability issues, and how to develop the research, accounting research based on the sustainability issues. But when we try to develop the accounting research based on the sustainability issues, we face lacking of theory supporting. Like we try to develop accounting variable, the relationship between accounting variable and sustainability issues like biodiversity loss crisis, biodiversity loss. Right? So what can we do? What strategy we should do? Stop or continue? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I give you extra credit for asking the first question because it's always takes a lot of courage. It's a very good question. I really like it because academic people always think about theory when we do our work, right? But I'll say a couple of things. One, sometimes theory emerges through our work, right? We kind of see it when we have a bit of better idea about what is actually happening. We do research because we don't know what is happening. So there is a dilemma that how can you come up with the best theory when you don't know actually what you are doing? So, but it gives us probably the best thing we can do about theory is to not prefix our theory, not to be attached with any theory that we are familiar with, or just going with the popular ones, right? If you look at one example, if you access some accounting journals and just see recent papers, like 5 from each different ones, you'll see there is a trend or kind of a pattern. People are using some theories over and over again. Some are overused, some are purely poorly used, some are efficiently used. So I don't want to name those theories, right? Yeah, you will see them. So my suggestion would be, first, you want to think about your research in terms of what we don't know. And then you think about which theory will be able to explain what we don't know. Most of the time, we kind of get into this trap that we have a research idea, research questions, and we kind of have a list of theories, and we try to use one of those theories rather than going into the deeper level. That can a new theory help us to implement what I want to achieve? So your main objective is not directly contributing to the theory. You are contributing to accounting, using theory to help you to make that contribution. That's how we see theoretical contribution to accounting, right? For example, you are using Bourdieu, Foucault, so you are not actually contributing them because they already written those theories for us. We probably put it in an innovative way, or we can bring something new that other people have not talked about. So think this way, how you can use Foucault or Bourdieu in sustainability. To give you an example, in one of my recent papers in AAAJ, which is one of the top journals, we used climate change risk and regulatory effect. So the public sector regulation comes in, and then banks in Bangladesh, they started green banking. So we tried to theorize this. So we kind of looked at different elements of our research. Regulation was one of the key idea. So we thought, okay, what are the theories that can explain regulation? Then we said, we also have sustainability, right? So regulation and theorization of regulation is well established. So it's not just Foucault, there are lots of regulatory theory you can find if you search. So it led us to thinking that, okay, we are in accounting, we have a lot of examples of Foucault governmentality, which is like, regulation and policy can be theorized. But how can we bring sustainability in the picture? So then we kind of brainstorm and we read papers outside of accounting. So this is my tips, practical tips. If you are struggling with theory and if you are trying to bring something new on top of the existing theory, read beyond accounting. Read not management accounting, pure management journals, right? Go beyond accounting and become, even you can read health, you can read public management, governance type of thing. So by reading those, I got an idea which was not used in accounting before. So Foucault's theory is known as also governmentality theory, I mentioned earlier. So we said, okay, no one in accounting has looked at green governmentality. So immediately we are dealing with both sustainability and regulation with this tweak in the theory. So it was used in management. It's not that we got this brilliant idea. Somebody has done it in other domains. We just happened to come across those research and we got this idea. But still, this is not enough that, in accounting, nobody has done it. Like theory is universal. If someone has done it in management, we still need to show what is new. But if we can get to that level, that, okay, no one has done it in accounting, green governmentality, right? How we govern green stuff, climate change, governmentality, at least we are very close to make that contribution. So now the second part is easy, that how accounting actually brings new knowledge about green governmentality, right? So two things happen. We introduce green governmentality theory, and then we make our contribution claim with accounting, right? So this is an example that when you are struggling with theory, probably it's better to become a bit non-conventional and go beyond accounting and read widely and search how many theories are used for sustainability. And then you see whether that theory can also help us to look at the other side of the story, which is your accounting variable, and see whether you can explain that as well. So as long as there is a fit like this, I think it helps to theorize. So that's one example. Other example is probably a bit more creative. Here, we are getting help of others and just trying to repackage in accounting. The other one is ANT theory, right? Actor network theory has been used in accounting a lot. So one of the element of ANT theory, some people will not call it ANT, they will say it's a Calhoun's theory. So Calhoun is one of the three guys who developed actor network theory. Latour and Law is the other two guys. So Calhoun has a different perspective about ANT, and he come up with a term called marketization, right? So I mentioned about that paper that we published in British Accounting Review. It's about digitalization as a form of marketization. So in the past, many people in accounting explained how accounting helps to create a new market, or how accounting creates a new product that actually helps to create a new market, something like that. And market is not physical, right? It's a virtual or a spatial dimension. So we got this idea that probably no one probably has looked at how digital technologies can also create new market. So if not new market, at least it creates new interaction between market participants like us, right? The service provider, service receiver, and some stakeholders, right? So immediately you have this opportunity to use something that has been overused in accounting, right? But you bring that kind of twist that, okay, probably no one has looked at this technology dimension in creating marketization. And that thing, the sustainability, a professor from University of Birmingham, his name is Thomas Cuxton, Thomas Cuxton, Cuxton. You follow him. He does biodiversity in accounting. Probably only few, like 2-3 people does biodiversity in accounting. He's one of the top in my view. Other one is Jane Bevington. So you follow these two guys and you see how they use popular theories like ANT, governmentality, and twist it for sustainability. And when you read these sustainability papers, particularly focusing on net zero, nature positive, biodiversity, carbon emission, and when you read these papers, you felt that, oh, probably this theory is best suited for sustainability research because the way they create. So you need to always focus on the accounting phenomena. So of course, sustainability is an actor here. But if you go back to the original accounting aspect, then it becomes easy because it's been already established. You just need to explain it in a sustainability aspect of it, just taking something new. So that would be my direct and indirect advice to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, that's. I'm currently also struggling, Prof, with the theory in my PhD studies. I'm using sociology of work. So again, thank you for the question. Cross-majoring tips for making sense of the theory to accounting. Thank you, Pak Bokar. So next question, yeah, Pak Dinaro.
My name is Dinaro. I'm one of the junior lecturer at the accounting department at Shackleton University. So I'm interested with what 2 points of what you have presented, for Prana. The first one is about the SDGs. As we know that SDGs at the beginning usually is for the nations to achieve the goals. Yeah, one of the goals is to reduce the poverty. But as we know that usually the business sector is easily to adapt or to adopt compared with the public sector, like the governments. Yeah. For example, like in Indonesia, for example, as I know that even in Indonesia, we don't have any like annual report because all the report in the financial report is only about the numbers, about the budget, about how to spend the money. But there is no special report for the SDGs or everything that will explain about the SDGs. Yeah. But the other things that's also interesting in Indonesia, for example, like Aceh, for example, we are the poorest province in Sumatra Islands, but we receive, let's say, maybe the biggest special autonomous fund from the province, from the center of the state. Yeah. So my question here is how or when is the accounting can, let's say, play their role to make sure that those numbers or those figures can make sure that the poverty is reduced, because the reports say that we have received a lot of numbers or figures, but let's say that in the reality, the numbers doesn't match with what happened in the field. Yeah. Or for example, like in auditor opinion, we have unqualified opinion, but still there's the rate of the corruption is still high. So in your opinion, what is the role of accounting in these matters? Because when you're talking about SDGs, there's no direct no direct influence between the accounting and the real happens. And the second was also a problem with the climate change. As we know that the companies that, let's say, provide or contribute the climate change, usually giving the best information for their climate or disclosure, how to say. But as we know that this company usually the one who contribute to climate change, but they provide the best financial performance or this financial report. So once again, what is the play of accounting in here? Yeah, since the company who contribute to climate change is the one who has a very good information of the financial and everything else. So in your opinion, how we as an accountant or accounting can solve this problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Really, this is another great question, and let me tackle these questions one by one, and if I forget, please let me know. So the first element of your question was SDGs, right? And the reconciliation about financial and non-financial information. So when you say things are financial and numbers, right? So that's one way of telling about something, right? But every story has three sides. One is your side, and the other one is my side, and the third one is the true side, right? The actual side. So financial information or accounting information cannot tell you all the sides of a story. It only tells one side of the story. It depends which side you are talking about. Is it my side or your side? So normally accounting follows power, right? If you are powerful, it will take your side. If I'm less powerful, it will not take my side. But that's when accounting academics or business academics comes in, because we don't have guns or we don't have bombs. We have pens and papers, and we can write articles. So probably we can use it to make this a bit more, real. So I think one counter would be telling narrative stories rather than following numbers. You can use numbers to criticize, right? Don't let them to tell you the whole story with numbers, because numbers can lie. Numbers can hide facts. Number can hide stories, right? So I think some people are very clever in terms of using numbers to hide behind it, right? How can you disagree with numbers, right? It's written here, it's there, right? It's in the budget, it's in the report, it's in the audit reports, right? So that's why I say that we need to be a bit more critical, right? We don't have to be revolutionary, but we need to bring that critical element in our thinking. When we don't fight with guns, we can bring the other things to the fight, right? So then probably I will encourage you to look at the real side of the story by talking to real people, looking at real effects of businesses or community and society. If someone claiming that, we have achieved this, we have achieved that, we have changed this, we have changed that, I think the best counter accountability is to talk to real people, find the real story, and then publish it with an interesting theory. So that's why you need to excuse me when I say that we cannot understand the whole world with binary relationship or regressional relationship, right? The world is more dynamic and complex. But there are real people, right? In those fantastic regression models or econometrics models, there is very little place for human and vulnerable people, right? So the issues you are talking, I think, very interesting research questions. So even your question can be converted into research questions, that how we can use other form of accounting, not financial accounting, in order to tell the real SDG stories, right? So that's one version. And the other version is our organizations are powerful because they have resources, they have sometimes political power. So they are probably making environmental damages, but at the same time, they are coming with conferences or public forums, or at least in their annual reports with glossy pictures and all sorts of things. They're claiming the opposite. So I think these are probably easy target for us. Probably we are a bit lazy, we don't do it, but everyone in this room can fight this battle very easily, because it's not too hard to prove that they're wrong, they're telling lies. The thing is how you do it. So you need to bring evidence, right? So you need to bring real evidence from real people through real case studies or field studies or interviews. So I'm giving you the same bullet for different people, but they are actually effective. So again, if you want to counter it, talk to people who has the real story, who can tell you what's happening. Because again, at the beginning of my talk, I said most of this reporting is one-way communication. They're just telling you, right? They are not showing you, but you can talk to other people and you can show them that they're wrong, you are right, and there more needs to be done, and they need to be accountable for that, right? In terms of the corruption element, we cannot deny that corruption is everywhere, including Western countries. Look at how corrupted American politicians are, and it's not politicians in Bangladesh or Indonesia, is all over the place. They make policies based on their self-interest, right? So we also can counter this. So I think public sector research is a good way to tackle some of the government corruptions. So they are showing budgets, again, accounting, to share that, we are improving your life, we are changing, we are helping. But whether it's a real help or whether it is making any impact, so in order to unpack that, we need to do some measurement of impact or measurement of actually what is happening. So if we know that, okay, that much money is allocated or spent in this particular project, you can probably look at, okay, what actually happened because of that. If you can track it, then it is obvious that most of the money has gone into someone's pocket, or somebody has done, some fraudulent activities or dodgy stuff, because you can't count for impact. So again, you can use accounting in order to count the outcome or impact, in order to tell them that, look, what is you are doing either is not effective or is like, misallocated or mishandled by someone. So sometimes we cannot tell these stories directly for obvious reasons, but sometimes we can do studies anonymously, hiding our participants, hiding the company images, and I think qualitative case study, field studies are very effective. Also, you can use survey, because nobody knows who did your survey, but you can also hide behind your survey numbers, and you can tell that, look, this is hard evidence, this is what people tell me. So last thing I would like to say, because you are doing some brave project, you need to be very rigorous in terms of your research. Do it seriously. Make your design very strong, robust, so that when people look at your result analysis and your question, they cannot just reject it because there is some flaw in your design, right? So if we design it properly, if we analyze ethically and properly, and then we present the result, no one can deny evidence, right? So I think these are very interesting topic, and I'm sure there are lots of editors who would be interested publishing in this type of stories. So I know some editors very closely. I work with them. Some of them are my co-authors. I know them personally. They are actually very interested in this type of stories. So not only you deal with practical issues, but you get a chance to publish in top journals as well. So when I say top journal, I don't mean American journals, right? So because then you know that they only publish a certain type of research, and most of us from rest of the world don't have access to those type of research. those type of methodologies, those type of data, and they are only interested about America. So, but we are interested about the whole world and our country, our community, our society. So we need to kind of think about holistically that how I can do a good job. And since these issues are close to your heart and you have genuine interest in your heart, I'm sure your story will be heard by other people. Editors will like it, reviewers will like it. You'll get reward from the community and from your, bosses as well. Does it answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Dinaro and Prof. Tarik. Do we have questions from Zoom? Let me say hi to our participant in Zoom. Yeah.
Is there any chat? Some chats are there.
Chat box, yeah. Can you open the chat box? Boleh dibuka? Okay. Let me see. Ada atas lagi? Coba. Ada. Oh. Untuk yang mau bertanya boleh raise hand. So we haven't received question from Zoom yet. Oh, any other participant here? Okay, Ibu Indah. Yeah. Di depan Ibu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Topik Prof. Tarik Rana. So I'm consistently interested in sustainability since I was in my PhD until now. Okay. Suaranya kurang besar ya?
Ibu diri saya.
Kecil ya. Oke. Pertanyaan saya mungkin little discussion di Mr. Tarik Rana. Saat ini saya concern ya in research community in topics capital market. Jadi my research grant now saya harus melakukan terkait dengan how is sustainability strategy ya terinternalisasi. Jadi internalization of strategi sustainability and the company. Jadi bagaimana sebenarnya proses bisnis dari sebuah organisasi yang saat ini terutama di capital market, perusahaan-perusahaan yang ada di Indonesia harus mengadopsi proses bisnis dari sustainability sejak diberlakukannya peraturan OJK 2017 yang itu menjadi mandatory startnya di 2019 sampai sekarang dan akan datang. Nah, yang menjadi sedikit kendala saya adalah ketika saya melihat konsep internalisasi konsep dari sustainability strategy pada perusahaan yang kaitannya nanti ke sustainability cost. Ya, jadi memang saat ini disclosure dari sustainability strategy itu lebih ke kualitatif data ada disclosure dan sustainability report. So, masalahnya bagaimana kita melingkan dari sustainability report itu ke angka-angka di dalam sustainability cost. Ya. Jadi kalau WFRS sekarang menekankan bahwa how the organization link the performance in the financial performance. Jadi ini yang mungkin menjadi kendala ketika kita akan menemukan data-data link to financial performance in financial reports. Sedikit mungkin keterkendaan saya ketika menemukan the sustainability cost to link the sustainability report and financial report. Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Question. On internalizing sustainability principles in businesses. And so she explores how businesses should internalize or integrate the principles. And the struggle currently is about the concept of internalization itself to sustainability costs. And because she found that most of the disclosure are more qualitative, so the struggle is how to link sustainability report to the numbers in sustainability costs. So her question is more into that tips. Yeah.
Thank you again. Another nice questions. I think this is probably another good topic for future research. So I'm not going to solve your problem or give an answer, but probably I can elaborate more on your perception. But hopefully, our colleagues can do research on this, because what you are experiencing is actually good research topic. But my response to this would be, we need a bit of cultural change in order to overcome this problem, because we are so used to, in terms of providing evidence to numbers and financial reports, right? So probably there is more room for qualitative reporting. And one answer would be integrating reporting, like integrated reporting, combining accounting and qualitative aspects. Having said that, I don't believe that everything needs to be quantitative, right? If someone needs to convert everything into quantitative, they can come up with this model, right? But our problem is how to make your sustainability activities embedded in your internal organizational processes, right? That's your main research problem at this moment. And the other one is your challenge, right? So look at your research problem first, which is very interesting, very impactful. This is what we should be doing, right? Mostly. I don't say that we don't do reporting, right, or auditing. They're all equally interesting. But what is lacking at this moment, that what is happening within the organization, how organizations are doing it, how they are developing new systems and policies, how they are developing new financial information processes that can capture information about sustainability and then link it back to the SDGs, right? So I think this is one of the biggest challenge, and the study you are doing probably will address this problem. So most of the time you'll say, people are saying that, we have done this, we have achieved this, we have ticked that box, right? But they don't tell us how. So I don't think that your project is quantitative project. Your project is qualitative project with some quantitative support. So don't take it as your challenge, that you have the responsibility to prove to others that it needs to be converted into numbers, and then they will have trust in your work, right? So your answer is some of the things better in words and in narratives, in stories, right? For example, the process-based research is always best suited with narrative stories, right? I don't think anyone can explain these process-based stories through numbers. You can probably document some inputs that, okay, how they're investing in their processes and systems, what sort of things they develop. But if you look at whether they are efficient, effective, outcome is achieved, goals are achieved, I don't think that part need to be converted into quantitative, right? That's my personal opinion. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, your story would be better received in the accounting academia if you can tell a process-based stories, right? How it happened, how it's happening, what role people are playing, how the interaction with the systems, where the resistance, how they're tackling those issues, right? And then your solution to your current problem, I would say that don't just say you have to convert everything into quant. Just say, look, these inputs, I'm telling you in quant, and some of the outputs you can also explain with quantitative numbers, but your focus should be outcome and impact, right? Outcome and impact should not be looked at through numbers or metrics. Then we are going into that both financial and non-financial information, which is integrated reporting. And for that, you can refer to TCFD is one of the framework, right? So look at the TCFD framework and see how they want companies to disclose, right? So you'll see that they are not asking everything to be converted into numbers and showing into metrics, right? So there are room for stories. So again, I think keep doing what you are doing, do process-based stories, think about qualitative stories. For the compliance purposes, for example, if your grant or funding organizations, they want to get some report from you, also report back to them with a mixed report, right? Qualitative and quantitative. But for your publications and research stories, it should be all qualitative stories. And that would be, as I said, well received by the editors and the reviewers. And again, I don't undermine the problem you raised. Probably this is someone else can pick it up as a new research and see, okay, if we are doing this type of things, how can we come up with a better reporting mechanism when people kind of have more confidence in our work? Yeah, does it make sense?
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Oh yeah, what?
Assalamualaikum. Thank you for speaking softly in this meeting. I'm interested looking at UCB and how many study or research you have done and published in many places. Lately, in an IPAC meeting, I heard a term like green corruption. Green corruption instead of green accounting. But later, I tried to find out how to measure the deepness of green corruption, for example. The intensity of green corruption, the quantitative effect of green corruption. It is very hard to find what we call a reference for that. If possible, you can share your ideas on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. And I'm grateful for your comment about my research. I actually a new researcher. I finished my PhD in 2016, so only a few years ago. But I probably am lucky that I was able to do so much research. And one of the reasons is I pick my topic from my heart, not in the literature or in the kind of, what other people are doing. So that I think makes you more productive when you like what you do. And it's a great opportunity being an accounting academic or in general an academic, because we can get paid doing what we like to do. Some people make money doing what they don't like to do, right? So our one is a bonus. So thank you so much. And then the more serious question about green corruption, in the literature, it is there. They talk about green washing, right? They talked about becoming kind of hiding behind the facade, the could be number, could be stories. Some of the thing is corruption is a real problem. It's not just related to green or sustainability stuff. Whatever we looked at, we can find corruption, right? So it's not easy to find, and it's not easy to publish those corruption stories, because when we do research on these type of things, even editors and reviewers become more cautious, right? They want to be make sure that what we are providing is based on facts, not based on our kind of perception or ideas. So my first response to your question would be, we need to be better at collecting evidence and showing that evidence back to those people, right, through our articles or through our communications. So if we know that corruption is happening in the name of green thing or sustainability, we need to unpack those through our research. So we need to, even if you suspect, right, even if you don't have the hard evidence, if we suspect that something doesn't make sense, something doesn't look right, seems there is some corruption happening, of course, we can embark on some research projects that will help us to understand not only whether there is a corruption, but the nature of corruption and type of corruption. And this is not a job of one paper or one researcher. I think we need to have a community in terms of developing this research project, right? Because if it's happening here, it's happening everywhere, right? Because the green things probably creating some opportunities for people to make money, to do some corrupted behavior. So I would say that again, in critical accounting, there are some effort in order to do research which is a bit risky and kind of you need to go against the tide. But if you look at in accounting, we don't have many corruption studies, right? Very few. Even we teach forensic business investigation in many universities, including mine. Some universities is making it one of the key subjects for the students, but we don't see we are teaching real thing to our students and ourselves as to how to conduct this type of research. So it's a bit of investigative type of research, which is different than developing a model and trying to find corruption through that model, right? Of course, you can find some anomalies and some discrepancies, but for corruption, we need evidence, and you need sometimes evidence beyond kind of doubt, right? Even if you go to a real court, the judges will ask for that type of evidence, right? So as I said, only research effort can help us to get there. So there is no shortcut or a specific methodology that will help us to kind of unpack those corruptions. So probably you can look at it other ways, not just directly corruption. So we can start by looking at, are they doing what they're saying, right? Or is there any discrepancies between what they are telling us and what they're showing us? Can we see, evidence of manipulation or corruption to that speak? How we can collect corruption data, and what data would actually classify as a corruption data, right? If you go to court of law, not all evidence are equal. And they will say, okay, I don't count this evidence, I don't count that evidence. So we need to probably collaborate with lawyers and others, researchers. So I think it's an interdisciplinary project. I don't think accounting people can come up with a model or strategy that will help us to unpack this type of corruption. And this, I believe that this is a systematic corruption, and it's really hard to do research against those type of things. But if we set our mind to these type of projects and collaborate with the right people, I'm sure we can do that. And that would be extremely valuable contribution to accounting and business literature, because we don't have it. But through people's stories, narratives, and case studies, field studies, surveys, we can claim that people are actually doing something different than what they're saying. They're disclosing differently. They're exaggerating their claims. But if we say corruption, that means we have to show that money has changed hands, right, from where to whom. So we have a bit of extra onerous on us, like, we have to make sure that we see those trails, we have proofs. So yeah, so it's a very interesting and significant research, but probably we need collaborative efforts with people who are expert in this type of research. Thanks.
Thank you very much for a great question, Pak Islah, and thank you very much for the answer. Is there any more questions? If not, if I may, I still have one more question from me. I should ask question, right? So I'm interested in something that you said in the presentation, bring something messy, something untidy, because research help to fix things. So when I did my research proposal defense, one of the things that were commented was, what is the success story from this case? So that comes up to, the question pops up in my mind when you told me this, because, and then my question is that how to deal with this? Do we need to compare issues and success stories? Because like my research come up from issues, problems. Thank you.
Yes, again, interesting questions. What is messy is actually different for different people. So when I work in my office or in my home, my desk is always messy, at least according to my wife. But for me, that's the way I organize. Because even it's messy looking, I can close my eyes and I can pick things. I can tell you where is my pen, where is my computer, where is my laptop. So that for me, it's not messy. But as soon as my wife comes in, she'll say, why this is so messy? So messy is in the eye of beholder, right? If you can explain messy, that's it. You don't have to justify whether it's a real messy or not. I hope it makes sense, right? For example, my wife asked me to justify why it's not messy. And I said, I can operate, close my eyes, because everything I can remember where I put in my desk, although it's not, organized in her way, but I organized it in my way. And that's why, I'm very comfortable and I see this is my organizing style. It's not messy. And at the other time, when my, wife allows me to go to the kitchen and I stuff up her things, I put, sugar in the place of salt and oil here, well there. As soon as she comes home, she realized that I touched them, right? Because she organized in her way. Whenever I touch it, it becomes messy. So this idea of messiness is actually in our head. So if you think first that, okay, how can I argue that something is messy? You just have to be yourself, right? My wife can say why I'm messy and I can say why I'm not messy. So you need to be very clear to yourself and you need to be very true to yourself. Don't just say, oh, Prof. You said this is messy and that's why I say it's messy, or Tarek said it is not messy, I said messy. What does it mean? In the literature, you will see different people saying different things, but we don't take them for granted. And we create messiness from those, right? We say, researcher A said this, researcher B said this. How can it be? Either it's A or B. It cannot be both. That means it's messy. Let me fix it. And then in the literature, researcher A says it's sustainability, B says sustainability. I come in, I say, how come these two people agree? Two people should not be agree with each other. Then it's messy. Something is not right. So you can create messiness from anything, either orderly or unorderly. It doesn't have to be unorderly all the time. Or you see how green is mixing with red, right? How fish is mixing with meat. So my supervisor used to tell me that you can create research problem from anything. just look at these things and be honest to yourself, and you see what is wrong with this. If you can come up with something in your head that is not right, that's your research problem. But we are talking to other people, right? It's not always husband and wife. We have to explain it to other people. Then we need to be more systematic. So what we do when we identify this type of problems or messiness, we take few people and make friends with them. How we make friends with them? We say, Prof. Iru said this is good. Like Prof. Tarek said this is good. Or immediately, I'm your friend. And then you attack other people. You say, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Then you already created your problem because you say, two people who I think best researcher, they're saying this. How can we say this? Let me check. Then you do your study. And so through this, what you are doing, actually, you are contributing to literature. As soon as you can say, I agree with these two, and I don't agree with these two, immediately you are contributing to the literature. So that's the hard thing to do, because editors and reviewers always say, what is your contribution? And you say, you know, previously, you guys have not paid any attention because these two guys are saying this, others are saying that. I'm the only one who find this out, and now I'm providing evidence. So when you provide evidence, you need to be clever. I'm not saying you need to be evil, right? Everything we do has a purpose. The purpose is knowledge production is also a political process. So politics by default is not bad. It's bad when it leads to bad things. But if it leads to a good thing, politics is good because politics helps us to achieve things. So in our research problem, we need to be a bit political to identify who I want to make friends with and who I want to make enemies with. And who I always want to make friends with, the big professor, the big editor, who will look into my work and say, no, I want to publish this, right? So that's the evil part in this. But not always we do research just thinking evil. We do it in the selling stage when it comes to sell our research. But as soon as you see that these two are not matching, these two are not agreeing, I can give you some specific references. One is, if a particular language matters, right? Academic, we pay very specific attention to specific things. So one paper can be accepted or rejected because of one sentence. I have paper rejected just one sentence.
The next is
okay, we are still alive. Let's continue. So one reviewer rejected my paper. He could not agree with one word. He said, no, I don't trust you. So when we write, we need to be very careful. So when we make research problem, we need to be a bit diplomatic so that he cannot come and shoot me because he said, I don't like. So what sort of word we use when we say messy or when we say research problem? You know, nowadays, people don't like the word gaps in the research too much, too many times people use it. Now they use research problem or problematization, right? So there is a book by Golden Beetle. So they write in their book that use your word cleverly. Say, when I summarize previous literature, the literature was, you don't say messy, you say it was incoherent. You say it is inadequate. You say it is incomplete, right? So we need to memorize those words and need to be ready to use them in our main research problem paragraph. If we insert those words, they become very strategic words for us, right? So I use messy just to make it easy, but we don't actually use messy or say, I don't agree with you. We say, although we know this, but because of this is inadequate. because nobody has looked at from sustainability angle, or nobody has looked at climate change. Nobody had looked at this from fraud, green fraud or something like that. So we kind of use those vocabulary, and it's not a bad idea to have those as a template. So we don't need to create everything, right? So there were giants before us. We can step over their shoulder and reach to the goal, right? So follow some people, follow some authors, follow their writing, follow how they create problems, follow how they close the paper, how they open it, right? So for me, I have those templates. In some templates in my head, some templates I print and put it in top of my table. Even I'm doing many papers, I always look at them when I develop the research problem for my paper, because they are given us their summary of their kind of career, right? So they tell us, this is happened, and if we do, we get this type of responses from our editors and reviewers. So it's a craft as well. Not necessarily your big idea will be enough, right? So I talked about these big ideas, but tomorrow, when I'm going about the research proposal and publication, and I'll bring this topic, that idea is not good enough. Many people came into this world with big ideas, gone into the grave, nobody noticed. Right? Because he could not communicate, he could not write, he could not convince other people through the writing. So that would be some of the things I'll be discussing tomorrow. And thank you again for this question.
Thank you, Prof. And that's kind of set up our. Yeah.
One little thing.
Yes, sure.
A dialogue between two accounting professors. And two voices in my head.
That's the point. So I like points.
Yeah.
And this was
yes. Most important to me is the way you create that topic, which is, I think, it's not your goal. How important is this to? How important is it to in relation with the publication?
Yeah, I think I have a couple of slides for tomorrow. But I can tell you some things better in a different forms, right? If I wrote a paper about this, probably I had to write 25 pages, 30 pages to say the same thing, right? But I took it as a poem. I created characters. I gave them voice. But if you look carefully, they are actually debating theory, right? What accounting is and what accounting is not. What is accountability? What is accountability is not. How people are exploiting accounting and taking advantage, and how accounting can help humanity, right? So the whole thing I could write in 1 page or 2 pages, but the meaning is same.
Yes.
But the advantage is I don't need evidence for that, because it's a poem and I can say whatever I like.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, some journals actually publishes poem. Yeah, like. Sure.
Thank you very much, Isla. Yeah. So that sets up for the topics that we will discuss tomorrow. Hopefully, we will see each other again tomorrow. Inshallah, I'll be the moderator as well for tomorrow's session. And or Pak Heru, do you have any
final words? Final words?
There is no So thank you, very insightful, especially for me, because for myself it's still very difficult to find accounting phenomenon. So recently I have been participating in that allow me to have access to discernment periods from the goals, and then I suddenly realized that climate change has really affected life, but somehow I couldn't define the problem as a concrete problem.
So I'm still learning how to define a good research problem from phenomena that we find in realities. Nobody, maybe you can give me some references. It's about fishermen, their daily life, how they make decisions, and how climate change has impact their livelihood. They need to go far away from their home in order to catch fish. In the past, they just need to sail like 2-3 hours and they find fish. But nowadays they need to sail like 1 day in order to get fish, and the volume is also decreased.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it.
Sure. I think this is a great idea. And in accounting literature, we have a couple of papers already published in fisherman context. And from theory perspective, I mentioned earlier about Calhoun's marketization. The whole theory is based on fisherman's luck. So you already have accounting paper published, and then you also have theory, which already, the whole theory actually developed by observing fishermen. So I think you have very interesting idea. It's a very good project. And if you do this, I'm sure you can publish in top journals.
Too many ideas.
Too many.
No, it's
The problem with art is we have a lot of ideas and don't have time to do the process. Oke, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu. Semoga yang tadi yang disampaikan oleh Tarik itu cerahkan ya. Kesimpulannya bahwasannya kita hidup di tengah-tengah data, banyak sekali data yang tersebar di sekitar kita, dan kita harus belajar untuk melihat masalah seperti yang disampaikan oleh Tarik tadi, ketidakharmonisan ataupun dalam tanda petik kotoran, ya, hal yang tidak benar terjadi dan itu menjadi sumber kemaslahan untuk diteliti lebih lanjut dan menjadi riset yang jual ya. Dan saya sepakat dengan Tarik, riset-riset yang dalam tanda petik unik, aneh seperti ini itu sangat gampang dijual. Yang susah mengemasnya. Ya. Barangnya sudah ada, tapi kemasannya ini yang harus kita banyak belajar dengan cara kolaborasi, dengan cara membaca lebih dalam, sehingga nanti hasilnya tidak hanya sifatnya deskriptif, tapi juga punya cerita-cerita yang kritis, dan itu sangat laku dijual di dunia yang disebutkan oleh Tarik. Terima kasih. Berkat kepada kita.
Thank you, Prof. Heru. Thank you, Prof. Tarik, for such valuable insights today. As we can gain from today's session, that we need to think holistically, and then think right, and then look around us at problems or issues. Okay, thank you very much. Inshallah, we'll see each other tomorrow in Balai Sidang. Yeah. And I'm signing off for today, so I'm handing over back to our MC. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jadi sebenarnya to the end of this webinar. Thank you, Prof. Kelana, for your research, collaboration, design, already used in this. Our keynote speaker, Prof. Tarik Rana. And also to our moderator, Sinta Parandikom. Ya, mana tadi kameramen? Nah, saya dari. Of information. Yeah. We take photo together. Gimana nih fotonya? Ya, Bapak Ibu, kita foto bersama sebentar di depan. Yang di Zoom mungkin bisa bagaimana di screenshot.
Oh yeah, they're really good. I mean, this week. Now, probably stand up there. Give me one of them. Saya di sini.
Nggak nampak. Tempat juga di sini.
Boleh memperoleh skateboard. Three, two, one. Three, two, three, oh, oh.
Baik, terima kasih semuanya. Pada kita soal ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nah, nama gila-gila. Nama gila-gila. Nggak prepare loh. Dalam